Welcome to the science workshop. Today we're gonna make 3 different types of yo-yos. We're gonna start off with this one. You're gonna have 2 of your smaller plates, paper plates, and a little piece of cork. We want it to be about a quarter size of a full-size cork, or I mean, about this big. And we want to glue this cork in the middle of our plate on the bottom side where it would normally sit. So to find the center, I'm gonna use, my finger and try to find a spot where it balances, or you could even use a pencil. Just trying to find a place in the middle where it's gonna be balanced-ish. Doesn't need to be perfect, but it's about right here. So I'm gonna take my hot glue. So we're gonna put a little bit of glue around the middle area that we found using our finger or pencil or any other kind of similar object. And we're gonna glue it down. And then we're gonna do the same thing to our second plate. I'm gonna add some glue around the center, and we're gonna line it up on top, just like that. And if you look closely, or at it at all, you'll see that we have a really similar shape. Looks like your average yo-yo, just made out of paper plates. So now that we have that set, we're gonna let that cool down, and we're gonna get ourselves some string, and we're gonna make it as long as we want, really, but the ideal length would be just around as low as maybe below your knee, a little bit more maybe. It's all up to your preference. I'm gonna cut about this much, and if you cut a little too much, you could always trim it later. It's string, you could cut it with some scissors or any other object. You might even be able to rip it. And then we're gonna tie it into a little loop like this, and like this. We're gonna tie a little loop right here, and then we can wrap it around our cork, get the other end of our string, and stick it through that loop that we made, and then just pull until it's tight. Now that we got that, we can tie a similar loop on the other end for our finger. Now let's just test it out. So we're gonna wind it up around our cork in the center. And once it's all the way through, just let it fall. And then the goal, like most yo-yos, would be to pull right when it gets to the bottom. You can pull a little early, it'll still work, but the ideal spot is right at the bottom. And once you get that timing down, you'll be a yo-yo pro. There we go. So once you got that down, the next step would really just be to make it look cool. I like personally to add just little spirals. Like something like that. So if you didn't catch how to tie that knot earlier, there's a much simpler way to do it. You can just take your string, make it go over like that. It's gonna be two pieces of string together. This is gonna be the same string, it's just pulled over like that. And then you're gonna tie a simple knot. Just wrap it around your finger. You got a little loop right there. You put both string through it, and then you just pull. And there you have it. Much simpler than the original way I showed you. And then you can either use it for your finger, or you could also use it as a slip knot, which means you put this end, the other end through it, and it will tighten down on whatever you're trying to wrap it around. Also makes a good band name. Alright, so the next style of yo-yo we're making includes these two bigger plates. They're the more solid plates. You're going to have these much thinner, lighter plates. We're gonna save those for later, for a different type of yo-yo we're gonna be making. But right now we want these. So same idea, we're gonna wanna find the center. So I'm gonna use my finger to see a good spot. It's gonna be around right here in the middle. And I'm gonna use a pencil. And I'm just gonna poke a hole right through it. And I'm gonna leave that off to the side for now, and I'm gonna find the middle of my other plate, which is about right there. Poke another hole with my pencil. And then to make it fit the same size as this tube we have, this cardboard tube, I'm gonna take my scissors and I'm just gonna make the hole a little bigger. Or an easier tool to use would probably be these cardboard cutters. And we're gonna just keep going little by little until we match the same size as our tube. Once your tube fits through there, that one's ready. We're gonna move on to the next plate. We're ready to join them. So now that we have both of our holes ready, we're gonna just stick our tube right through them, just like that. And to make it a little more solid, we're gonna add some glue around the top here. So right there in between both plates, and then just push it down. Squeeze them together. Once we got that, we're gonna make sure our tube is even on both sides. And then once we find that it's pretty even, we're gonna add some glue around those holes that we made for our tube. So we're gonna put some glue around here and get it stuck into place so that it doesn't move anymore. There we go, we have that side. Now we're gonna do the other side. Plenty of glue, make sure it's nice and stuck there. Fill that gap that you might have if you've made the hole a little too big. And then we're gonna let that cool down, and we're gonna add our string. So similar idea here. We don't want the string to be too long. A nice trick would be to stand up, especially for this one, because we want the string to be a lot, like about 2 times longer than what we would have for our first yo-yo we made. I'm gonna cut my string about this long. That's about how low I want my yo-yo to go. And if you put your string in half like that and you put it down, that's about how low it's gonna go. So now to connect this string, we're gonna take our cardboard cutter again, and then we're gonna cut a little piece out of one of the sides of our tube, just like that. And there's gonna be a little slot right there. And then we're gonna tie any knot you want. I'm just gonna tie a simple knot. And then we're gonna stick that string and the knot inside of our tube, and we're gonna put it down inside, just like that. And once we have it in there, we're just gonna add a little bit of hot glue to make it stick, so that doesn't go anywhere. And I'm gonna put a little bit on the inside too, just to ensure that it doesn't go anywhere when I'm using it. And then we're gonna repeat the same thing on the other side. And as that's cooling, I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna draw little designs on my yo-yo, make it look cool. Okay, and then once that's all cooled and you're happy with your design, we're gonna bring it over and we're gonna test it out. So when we use this one, we wanna make sure to have a few fingers in between and hold it kind of like this to help keep it balanced when we're using it. So I'm gonna wind it up and then I'm gonna drop it. And then we're gonna pull towards the bottom. Whoa, pulled a little too hard there. And boom. Whoa. Give it a couple tries. Wind it up. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And if your string's a little too long, kind of like how mine ended up, you can always just tie a little part off on top to make it shorter, and then test it out until it's at a good length. We can give it another try. Let's see. And there we go. Yep, and then that's about it for that one. So we're gonna move on to our last yo-yo. So our last one is it's pretty similar to the last one we made. The only big difference is we're going to use a piece of straw instead of a big cardboard tube like we did on the last one. So first, we're going to glue these plates together like this. So we're gonna go all the way around the outside. Now once I'm happy with where it's at and it's strong enough, we're gonna take our pencil and we're gonna go from about the middle. We're gonna see about where the middle's at. It's about right here. And we wanna go from this middle area to about halfway to our outside area. So about right here. And once we have our spot marked, we're just gonna poke a hole with our pencil again. Just like that. Fix it up a bit. Now that we have our hole, we wanna see how long we need our straw, which we want it to just stick out just a little bit, just about that much on both sides. So now that I have that, I'm gonna cut it about the same on the other side. So I'm gonna grab it right there. And where I'm holding it, I'm just gonna cut it. And once we magically retrieve it from the floor, we have our straw piece. And we're gonna place it in that hole we made. We're gonna make sure we have about the same amount sticking out on both sides. And once we have that, we're gonna hold it in place and we're gonna add glue around that area, just like we did with the last yo-yo we made. And we're gonna do that to both sides. And there we have that. That's most of what we need to do for this yo-yo. Other than, like the other two, just some decoration. Could do okay, so once we've done all that, we're gonna get some more string. And on this yo-yo, we don't really want it to be too long either, just like our last one. We just want enough to be able to hold it from both sides. So I would just mess around with how much length you use. I'm gonna cut about this much. And what we're gonna do with the string is we're gonna run it right through that straw. And we're gonna run it right through it. And here it is. Okay, now that we have it, we're going to tie the strings together, both ends of the string together. And similar to the other yo-yo, we're gonna hold it between our fingers and we're gonna try to space it out evenly with these two ends of our straw. And if you give it a little start, you're gonna feel it moving and you're gonna wanna do the same little up and down motion. You're gonna wanna do this little up and down motion with it. You're gonna wanna find the rhythm. And if you get your timing right, it'll look something like this. Really light hand motion up and down, just like this. Just like this, and you're gonna try to feel it out. You really gotta just pay attention to when it's coming around, and that's when you want to move your hand. This is definitely the trickiest of the three yo-yos we made today, but once you find that timing, once you find the frequency, it comes pretty easily. And just like that, we have our third yo-yo. Have fun. Okay, this is our normal yo-yo with paper, made out of paper plates. And you might be thinking, why does this yo-yo move slower than most yo-yos I've seen or used? And that's because of the size. It's the diameter and the radius is much bigger than your normal yo-yo, and that's causing it to move a lot slower due to inertia, which means the bigger it is, the harder it's going to be for it to move. And that's what our yo-yos are doing, right? They're spinning, and then they're stopping, and then they're spinning, and they're stopping, and that's the biggest reason. And this, our two-string yo-yo that we made today, is this one, and just very similar reasoning, right? It's really big, and it's stopping, and it's moving, and it's stopping, and it's moving. Lastly, our offset yo-yo has about the same thing, right? It's just about as big as our two-string yo-yo. And what's different about it, right? It's not directly in the center. We ran our string through the side, like it's not directly centered, it's offset, hence the name offset. It's not quite in the middle, it's off here off to the side. And that's why you might find it a little different when it comes to its movement, right? It doesn't quite just spin in a perfect little circle just as our regular one does, right? The one that has the cork right in the middle. So yeah, just notice these things, observe these things, and most importantly, just have fun with them. Good job.